welcome to my next chess video here. This time I show you the game between Deep Fritz 14 versus Senpai 2.0. I let them play without book, and I let them play the Petrov's defense, and exactly this position except of the move bishop e7. This was the first move calculated by Senpai. This position arises, it's a theoretical position, and it arises after e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, counterattacking the pawn. In the last game we had knight takes on e4, followed by d6. In this game I let them play the move d4. Then we have takes, bishop here, d4, d5, and pawn takes on e5. And Senpai calculated that bishop e7 is the best move, which is also a theoretical move. Now probably castling by both sides seems pretty normal. Maybe followed by knight d2, attacking the knight, maybe then f5, taken en passant, knight takes f5, and c4 probably, but yeah, could also be wrong there. Maybe f5 is not the best move, maybe you can just take the knight. Yeah, we have the move castles by Deep Fritz 14. Maybe now bishop takes and bishop to g4, pinning the knight. Well, this may not work that good. One piece, two pieces, and you get one back. So no, this works, but I don't know. Maybe something else also possible. Yeah, we have also the move castling now by black. Knight d2, bd2 looks pretty normal. Takes, and c5 maybe. Threatening to go c4. So maybe c4 by white, but then maybe d5 and you have a protected past d pawn. Yeah. But white is leading in development, and you can maybe use this. Playing one rook to the c file, maybe sometimes go b4 or a3 b4, maybe then pinning, but then with the plan of queen c4, c2, threatening mate. So maybe you can push here to block in the bishop, but then this pawn gets very weak after this move. For example, this pawn is gonna fall, so probably not d3 there, but yeah, you could go for something like g3, so that this is no threat anymore. White can still play this, followed by h4, h5 maybe. But now you get a double pawn, so you'd have to take care of this somehow. But let's see what Deep Fritz 14 is coming up with. Deep Fritz 14 is playing white, of course, and as you see here. And yeah, but this position seems pretty normal to me. You can play something like this. You could also play, instead of knight bd2, you could also play c4 immediately, but this could transpose after d5. Oh no, you cannot play d5 here, because the knight is en prise. So maybe c6 now. And now knight bd2, threatening the knight, so the knight could take, maybe taking here, takes with the bishop, and play something like bishop d6 doesn't seem good. Yeah, bishop g4 again. So maybe white has to invest the moves somewhere, maybe here to stop bishop g4, But then maybe bishop e3 or bishop f5, followed by knight to d7. But white can also play knight bd2, for example, and takes, taking the knight. So it's not a threat to take here. You could also go bishop f4 in this position to solidify your center pawn, but then maybe takes here, takes there, and a dull queen exchange, which would be somehow equal. Then maybe bishop c5, threaten the pawn right here, so the rook has to go back, and then knight bd7, threatening this pawn here. But you can maybe go for g4 here, push the bishop back and go for something like this with check, so the bishop isn't hanging, and then you can put the bishop back after the king moves in the corner. So maybe something like this is possible. Also you could take the knight, but then your bishop is en prise. Yeah, we have to move c4. I will go for bishop to f5. Also maybe possible knight c6 just to ignore this and develop a piece. But c6 also looks normal with the plan of bishop f5 and knight bd2. Also white can maybe go for bishop for b3 and bishop to b2. But yeah, we'll see what Senpai comes up with. My best guess is here to play c6, followed by knight bd2, because you don't want to play here, because then knight takes, pawn takes, and you have a doubled pawn right there. But maybe even this is not that bad. Well, black can always go for the endgame though. And now you have two isolated pawns here on the queen side, and this looks either better for black or equal, and this is not what Fritz will go for, I guess. So I guess knight bd2 will be played. Or some bishop move maybe to e3 or to f4. Let's look at bishop e3 first, because I just saw it that Fritz is calculating bishop e3. Bishop e3 to stop d5. Then maybe bishop f5. No, knight d2. Maybe the bishop hovels back here. And then rook to the c file. Knight takes, queen takes, and knight bd7, followed by takes. No, not. Maybe here takes. And if you want to win a pawn here, yeah, you could win a pawn there. So this is probably not what Senpai will go for. Could you do this immediately after bishop f5? No. No. Only after knight takes knight. And only after the knight is on the square d2, so that the queen is no longer protecting the d-pawn. But okay, it's black's move. So maybe something like f5 here, solidifying the knight even further. Takes, maybe even queen takes here, threaten the bishop. Bishop moves back. Or no, this doesn't work because there is a pin now. Just see this, so you cannot take with the queen, because this is a pin and you would lose the queen. So you'd have to go c takes, but then you open up the file for the bishop, for the rook. But then you can maybe play knight to c6 later. But first of all, it's white's move. And this diagonal looks pretty weak. This whole diagonal here, so I don't know. You could maybe go for this. It's playable position for both sides, I think. So let's see. We have the move c4. We had the move c4, c6, and now the move bishop to e3. Let's see. I could also consider something like this, because now the pin is again there. You can again go for this. After h3 you can always do something like that, get some breathing room for your king, then play knight bd2, of course, and maybe knight to d7, or even a5 followed by knight to a6, and the bishop can capture, but then the rook can capture. So, for example, takes, token move a3, knight here, bishop takes knight. Now you don't have to take with the pawn and allow the doubled isolated a pawn. You can take with the rook, and now the rook can swing over to the king side and threaten the white king. So this might be possible, something like this, but I doubt that Fritz would go for this to take off the knight. But a5. What about just rook here, knight here, maybe threatening to go there, but the bishop just moves back, maybe with some mating ideas when the knight is gone. Well, actually, after knight bd2 you'd have to play something like this, because the knight is threatened twice, and then maybe rook here, a5 to put the knight there, c takes, bishop back. Now you can also go knight c6, and queen here, maybe something like this. Then maybe d5, attacking the bishop. The bishop only has one square, and then maybe g4 followed by g5, followed by some, where's the knight going, followed by some attack by black. Now they have two pawns threatened, but you can just take the knight, okay? So this probably doesn't work. Could take the knight with the queen, but after this kind of have to go there. Then maybe even this. Takes, knight takes, rook takes, pawn takes, and now your king is pretty open, but you can always play bishop g3, so maybe that's not that bad. But okay, black's attack is also not that bad, threatening this one and threatening that one. So you have to defend this. How to defend this? Probably with king here. Now maybe something like queen here to again attack this pawn here. And maybe something like this. And yeah, I think black gets compensation for the exchange in this variation. Black has really some compensation here, because white's pieces are all on the back foot. Black has the bishop pair. Well, white also has the bishop pair, but this knight compensates for a rook in conjunction with this open king and this doubled pawn right there. And you can maybe insert even more pressure to the f pawn by putting the bishop there, and now it's really hard to defend this pawn. This bishop takes is threatened, but you can maybe go for something like this. Threatening checkmate, then check, check, defending the mate. You have to block with the bishop. But now the knight comes in here, check again. Check here. And this is mate, so you definitely have compensation for the rook. Okay, Deep Fritz doesn't allow any of this kind of stuff. Fritz just plays the bishop back here. Not even h3. Fritz just plays the bishop back to unpin the knight. Black could win a pawn there. Take a pawn. Taking here. No, black cannot win a pawn. Bishop is on the pawn anyway. But you can also go queen here, for example, or queen here, attacks the knight and the pawn. But maybe bishop takes, pawn takes, queen here. No, this doesn't work, because after you take back with the bishop, the knight is attacked twice. So you cannot win a pawn here as black. Bishop e2 is played. Now what to do? Maybe back to the idea a5, although a5 looks pretty slow. Maybe not bd2. Going for something like f5 takes en passant, and then knight takes, and then this knight is very strong right here, but here maybe knight bd2. Okay, we have a move. We have Senpai plays the move rook here. Rook to e8, and Fritz plays the move h3. And Senpai plays the move bishop to e6. Now the pawn is definitely threatened. No, not knight bd2. Maybe queen c2. I will play queen c2 now. To defend the pawn. And also now you cannot take because the knight would hang. Also preparing rook to d8. Also maybe knight c3, preparing knight c3. Now maybe knight here. Rook there. f5. f5. Let's think. Yeah, we have to move queen c2. Yeah, maybe pawn takes, not rook takes, of course. Pawn takes. Knight here attacking the bishop. Bishop has to go there, and now you can fork. So this is probably not what what black is wanting to do. You can also go do this immediately. Knight here. There. So now you have to move the bishop to defend. To defend the other bishop. Bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes, rook takes. But this also looks kind of good for black. For example, knight to c3, rook here threatening mate. You'd have to do something. Bishop here, for example. And now, yeah, now the pawn is falling. So after this takes, you have to do something about the e-pawn. F5 is not F4 is not possible, so you maybe have to go back with the knight. But then maybe queen here. But now you have to survive. You survived. Okay, we have a move here, not F5. We have to move bishop F5, threatening some discoveries with the knight. So rook d1 is the thing. White is calculating, but now maybe knight g3. Now the bishop is attacking the queen and also defended, because the knight now defends the bishop. The queen has to keep an eye on this bishop, because it's attacked, so it has to go there. And now you could maybe go back, then queen here. You can also take the bishop with check. Queen takes. But now white has no problems, because white got rid of his pawn, of black's knight on e5. But okay, you can also develop normally with some knight to a6, probably knight a6, because knight d7 loses a pawn. So knight a6. But then maybe takes, bishop takes, pawn takes. And black's pawn structure is pretty miserable. Isolated d pawn, doubled isolated a pawn. But okay, white plays some other move. White played, after knight a6, played the move queen here, because maybe if you take there, then you have this knight here, and then the knight can take there, because it's attacking the queen. What about this? Oh, knight takes, rook takes, knight takes, rook takes with check, let's say. What's the material? 4 pieces each, but black has a rook up, so that's why white just didn't allow this. So white plays the move queen c1. Now we have the move rook to c8. But black's position looks pretty comfortable here. Senpai is playing good moves. Now maybe knight bd2. Or knight c3, yes, we have to move knight c3. Knight c3. If you just capture this, if you capture there, then this move, but then maybe that move. Counter-attacking here. Why not take the a6 pawn? Okay, black just moves the knight, and now b4, knight here. No, not knight here. So probably knight b5, but then a6. Let's see, this is a question for the analysis. Bishop f5, rook here, knight a6, and now we have the move knight to c3. Let's see how this game will develop. Both sides are finished with their development somehow, and I will smoke a cigarette while watching this game. Okay. Wait, what? Oh, come on. Yeah, this is the current position on the board. And now we have the move bishop takes. Bishop takes pawn. This is quite interesting. This is really quite interesting. Senpai gave up a pawn, but I'm sure there's a good reason to give up this pawn. But Deep Fritz calculated that it's no problem to take this pawn. Let's see if it is. Taking those kind of pawns, I don't know. Black's position looks pretty impressive, so black has some compensation for it, for sure. And Senpai is also not a bad engine, but so is Fritz. Fritz is also a good engine. Okay, we have the move queen to a5 now. What is the implication of this move? Yeah, probably some random move. Okay, we don't have a random move. We have the move bishop back. Probably now knight takes, queen takes, pawn takes, and pawn takes, followed by maybe b5. Something like this. How is this endgame? I don't know if black goes into this endgame though, because black is down a pawn, but white has two isolated pawns right here. This bishop has to move. And now what? So probably this is not the continuation. Maybe after queen takes, maybe even not even knight takes. But what else to do? Just saw Senpai calculates knight to c7, maybe going to e6. But what is the queen doing on the queen side? if the knight heads towards the king side. But maybe even something like, for example, a random move by white. Here maybe something like b5. And if you take, then knight takes. And if you take here, then you have a discovered attack on the queen. And the queen cannot go there, has to go there. And now some other discovered attack on the queen and also on the bishop. And now, yeah, the queen just doesn't have a lot of squares. The bishop has to go in front. So maybe not that move. Maybe this double attack. Double attacking the queen. And the queen has to move back. And now you lose the bishop. So maybe this is some tactical justification for this. But white don't have to go king here. White can also just play for c5. Now I see why queen a5 is played. Maybe to prevent the move c5. Because after c5 you can just take it. So maybe b5 is gonna be played next. So maybe a4 or... Okay, white just takes here. But this allows knight takes. Now you cannot take. Because the queen... Because of the same thing than before. Now the knight is attacked 3 times. So black gets the pawn back. So I think Senpai's position is quite okay here. Fritz somehow messed this up. But Senpai is calculating knight takes c3. But what is... Yeah, then you could just go into this endgame. And now you can defend everything. Well, you have to go passive, because this allows c5. You have to go you don't have to defend the pawn. You can just push it. Yeah, well, pushing it, then knight takes e3, so probably bishop to d2 is gonna be played. Probably this is a better move. Let's see both evaluations. I want to see... I think black still has compensation for the pawn, but I think white is better. Yeah, both sides think white is a little bit better, but not drastically. So, okay. Maybe something like this looks interesting. If you take the bishop, then you activate black's rook. But you can always get rid of this problem. So, yeah, how is this endgame? Opposite colored bishops. I think it's kind of drawish, although white is up a pawn. Maybe white is here better, but black can maybe hold this. But let's see. Bishop goes back. Well, no, knight takes d5, of course. And then the bishop goes back to d2. And maybe bishop a3 to stop rook to here and threaten this one. And the bishop is also covering this square right here. So this rook would have to move probably to here. Now this rook moves, knight takes, bishop takes, rook here, and black has the bishop pair and got the pawn back. So bishop a3 is kind of a good move here. I just saw it because Senpai calculated that this move is good, but maybe c4 then. Bishop here, pawn takes knight, bishop takes, rook takes, pawn takes here. And now white has a bishop pair and 4 pieces versus 3 pieces, but black has a rook and a passed d pawn. So maybe this is something to work with for black. Knight takes, bishop d2 probably, and then bishop a3. Maybe something like this, which is interesting, which is very interesting. Let's see, how is this endgame? Maybe knight to h5. Yeah, but then you lose a pawn with an attack on the bishop, so you cannot play h5. And f6 is maybe a threat, so you'd have to go bishop here. Bishop f4, f6 nevertheless. Rook here, rook here, rook takes, bishop here, but then you have rook here, then maybe takes, and bishop there, bishop here, takes, and white is up a piece, so this sacrifice doesn't work. Bishop a3, c4. Maybe white is better here in this kind of endgame. So c4. Where is the knight going? Maybe knight back to c7, followed by... Now the threat is this one. So maybe bishop here. Stop this. Bishop takes, rook takes, and knight here. But this is very hard to hold for the black team. But maybe the knight on e6 looks quite good. Maybe you can hold this with black. Although black is a pawn down. But maybe you can hold this. Knight e6, knight to h4. Rook goes to the open file, maybe some rook exchange. Knight takes here, pawn takes, not f takes of course. H takes, and Yeah, f4 is under control, so maybe g3 to maybe go f5, but then g4. King goes up. Bishop here maybe. Or bishop here immediately. I mean. But then the rook comes to the second, threatening this pawn here. So maybe a5, but then this pawn is lost. So maybe you have to go passive with the rook. But before you can take off the knight, then you have to go passive, but then the c-pawn falls. It's not that easy, so you probably cannot allow the rook coming to the second. So maybe don't exchange rooks, just take the bishop immediately. Play bishop here next. f5 doesn't work, you just take the pawn. And now the... yeah, well, you can take back, bishop takes, rook takes, again rook to the second is threatened. No, you cannot take rook takes, because the other rook is en prise. So f5 takes, not takes, but rook takes here, rook takes here, pawn takes here, bishop takes, rook takes, and now this rook comes to the second, this rook comes here, takes, takes, rook here, rook check, king here, rook here. But this kind of looks better for white, this rook endgame. Yeah, we have to move bishop to back to c1. This endgame looks better for white. White is still up a pawn. So maybe check immediately is better, and then go there. Rook takes, rook takes, rook here. Well, it's the same position basically, and rook here. And then I don't know. This pawn is blockaded. This rook is this king is cut off. Maybe king here. King here. Okay, we don't have the bishop exchange. Probably because this endgame is better for white. Much better. Bishop here, again threatening to trap the rook, so maybe bishop here now. And then maybe b5. Pawn takes b5. Knight takes b5. Bishop takes b5. Pawn takes b5. Now the rook is threatening to come in, so this rook goes there. Then maybe... no, maybe not. Maybe just this one. Attacking the rook. The rook... should stay on this file, because if it goes there, then... well, it's not that bad either, because this square is defended by the knight. Otherwise, bishop here would again be possible. But I think the bishop pair compensates for the pawn here. But this knight jumping into c3 is also very hard to parry. But okay. Let's see, b5. Yeah, we have to move bishop to b2. To b2. Maybe now knight e6. Then the rook can come to the second. But well, how bad is this? Takes, very bad. Very bad. Very bad indeed. Rook here, attacking the bishop. Where's the bishop going actually? This square here. Knight takes, knight takes. Yeah, well, you don't want to lose a pawn, so rook takes. But then there is this funny move. Winning the exchange, so knight takes is basically forced. Then rook takes here. Well. Rook takes, attacks the rook. But the rook attacks the bishop. And now the bishop is threatened and this is threatened. This bishop to c3 is also a threat. So... Yeah, and you cannot defend, but well, you could take the bishop. Yeah, and this is lost. You don't even get the piece back. So this doesn't work, so you cannot... Yeah, this is a double attack. The rook is attacked and the bishop is attacked. So you cannot take the bishop there. So b5 is probably a bad move. But okay, we have a move after knight to e6. We have the move bishop here. Probably just takes, going on the d file. Maybe doubling. Maybe now a knight comes into c4. No, the knight cannot come to c4 because then you lose a rook. So maybe rook takes, and then knight c4. Where's the rook going? Cannot go, could go there. Then knight e6 back, but then rook to d7. Okay, we don't have this exchange. We have the move rook to a8, going after this pawn, maybe going after the bishop exchange. But let's see what white comes up with in that position. Rook here. Let's again see both evaluations. We have a 0.00 by Senpai and a 0.30 by Deep Fritz. 14, so it's probably equal. We have now the bishop exchange. H takes, I'd guess. And what about this move now? But then you can go for b5. Takes, rook here, rook there, rook takes. Let's see if Fritz can handle this position a pawn up, or if it's really just a draw. Yeah, the knight also, knight e6 is really a beautiful knight. It covers this square. The knight would love to jump here to attack this pawn. The knight would love to jump here to maybe threaten to play e6 or something, but first of all it likes to go there, but it simply can't. So yeah, this is kind of a good knight right here. But let's see how this one develops. Maybe now a3 to kick the bishop, not allow any of that kind of thing. Bishop here, I'd guess bishop c5, going a little bit after that pawn. Maybe now rook to d7, attacking this one. Takes, rook here, rook there. Yeah, then you'd have to exchange, and you can maybe win the d-file. Going here, takes, rook takes. Yeah, it seems to be a draw. It really seems to be a draw, this position, although white is up a piece, but it seems to be a draw. Not up a piece, up a pawn, but yeah. I think it's more drawish than winning for white. Let's see what else can black do here. White do. Taking here seems pretty forced. Yeah, black's pieces are just too active. But you don't even have to go b5. I just see Senpai just wants to go b6, and this knight is also covering this very important c7 square, and yeah, rook would love to go there. Well, even if the rook goes there, then yeah, I don't know. Maybe doubling, letting this pawn go, just to get some play. Maybe rook here to attack this pawn. Maybe not defending. The knight is also covering this square right here. So it's really a monster knight, this knight on e6. This knight on e6 is securing a draw for the black team. But okay, we don't have this kind of stuff. We don't have b6 here. We just have this move. Probably takes. Now you constantly have now maybe a4, but then the rook also has to stay on the a file, so I don't know, maybe something like this. Bishop takes, pawn takes, but then you don't have to go b6 and allow rook to a6, rook to e6. You can go b5, and if here you just take and go here, and this is now suddenly it's better for black. So and taking there, going behind the pawn. I don't know, maybe sacrificing a rook here to go there, but this doesn't seem right. Maybe white can win this now, but just go here and defend your passed pawn, and all of a sudden it's remarkably drawn. Maybe even black is better. So probably after all that, after this rook to e7, probably the rook moves. Wait, what? Did I miss a move somewhere? Rook goes there, rook goes there, rook goes there, let's say, and rook goes back to d3. I missed a move somewhere. Taking this pawn. Should be white's move. Oh, king here, rook here, king here. Yeah, black's pieces seem to be active enough to secure a draw, stopping any knight f4 ideas. Here, rook there, probably now exchange. Black's king is also very active there. Yeah, I don't see anything for white here. There is, black's pieces are just too active. Let's see both evaluations. Yeah, Fritz still thinks white is better, but not by a lot. And Senpai thinks it's a draw. So let's see how this one is going to end. Fritz is still up a pawn. Rook here check, king to e7. Knight d2 to defend the pawn that way. Yeah, but there are no entry points. Black can just sit and wait. b6. And now probably f4. b6, no, the pawn is pinned. So maybe king g2 now. To go f4, g4 and g5. Well, black can't do anything, so this, for example, takes, knight back. So something like this, white can achieve something like this, but from here, don't know. Maybe the king steps one square up, but okay, we don't have this. We have king g2, knight here, h4, knight there. The rook goes passive again, so that the knight maybe can jump to e5. Where's the knight heading to? Knight here. So now everything is on this pawn, also that pawn is under scrutiny. Rook goes back. Yeah, but I don't see how to make progress for white here. King to e6, f4 maybe. We have to move king to f3. Let's see both evaluations again. Yeah, it should be a draw. Both engines now think it's a draw. black's pieces are more active, black's king is more active. Yeah, white is up a pawn, but this is split everything, so I think it's gonna end up in a draw. King to e2. King back to e6. Fritz is calculating f3, but I don't think it's gonna help him. Yeah, we have to move f3. Bishop e7 maybe. Yeah. King d3. Oh, d3 is out of the square, sorry. King d3. Okay, king d3 is kind of making progress because now the king is defending the pawn. So this rook is able to move. Okay, the knight moves back. Maybe to here to give a check. So if you move, for example here, then the knight is coming in here with a check. But this also doesn't look that appealing. Okay, the rook goes passive. King goes active. I think it's gonna be a draw. Knight c4 check. Yeah, I think it's just shuffling around. Okay, there is no progress to be made for white. I'll call it a draw now. And ask Stockfish. Stockfish will tell me if white can make any progress there. But before I ask Stockfish anything, I will review the game a little bit. We have this opening moves. Castling. Okay, castling is not theory. Knight c5 is theory, but castling is also possible probably. Yeah, c4, c6, bishop here, bishop here, bishop here. All pretty normal. I saw some tricks for black. White had to be careful at some point, but this endgame should be even. Let's ask Stockfish the question everyone wants to know. Stockfish, tell me. It's equal. It's just equal. Okay. Let him think for a little bit, and he says it's equal. So the draw is... well, now it's growing. So maybe Fritz has some points there. No. When I read the line, there is also no exchange. It's just shuffling around. So it's a draw. Yeah, this position is just a draw. So I say thanks for watching and see you next time. Ciao.